keeping with the trend I want to start doing on the channel, I want to talk about a Warhammer community reveal today, and that was the return of Teclis. Now, we know that we got a little bit of a teaser on the quote-unquote pointy elves, and that is going to be the return of the high elves to Haish, or to the Age of Sigmar, to the mortal realms, as it were. The Warhammer community article is pretty interesting here. So it does go into kind of the backstory of Teclis, and then we will get a little teaser of Teclis's in Age of Sigmar picture at the very bottom of this article. But it pretty much kind of rehashes the story of Teclis. And we get this is not even 5th edition. This is like 4th edition Teclis right here. This is the old art. And you can see a lot of really awesome things here, right? The Staff of Lilith, the Sword of Teclis, this armor, which has kind of been his armor throughout the many, many ages of time, the War Crown of Safari, all these things that are very indicative of the Teclis that we know from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Now, as Teclis has evolved, he's taken on a very different aspect. Now, in Age of Sigmar, he is an actual god, and him and Teclis are Tyrion and Teclis are the twin gods of Haish, more or less, and Tyrion is blind. But here's an interesting thing about this article. The Warhammer community article pretty much goes in about how, yes, we will obviously be seeing Teclis in the Age of Sigmar, the god of light, as it were, in Haish, and we kind of get a little bit of what's been going on with him, right? We hear about Nagash, we hear about Alariel, we hear about Sigmar, we even hear about Morathi in this article, we hear about Manfred von Karstein, for Christ's sake, but we don't hear about Tyrion at all. It talks about the elves that are soon to come, and how pretty much when Teclis awoke from his slumber coming into the mortal realms, he was saying, "Oh, where are the elves? Where are all my elves?" And his inability to find any causes them to bind Slaanesh, which we've talked about in our Ideneth Deepkin video, and essentially pull out the souls of all of the elves from the realm that, or the world that was. And in doing that, he creates the Ideneth Deepkin. That's like the kind of next foray in the wild adventures of Teclis. And then from there, he forms, it's actually not the penumbral engines, that's actually after Grungy gets them. They're called the Enlightenment engines, and it's basically just supposed to teach people all sorts of fun stuff. Because, oh, you got a little teaser at the very bottom right there. That's the big thing with Teclis is, he wants to kind of bring enlightenment to everyone, and that was his shtick during the world that was. He was trying to teach humans magic. He was trying to kind of bridge that gap between the elitism of the high elves and the necessity to be a united front against chaos. And he sees this exact same kind of need or requirement when it comes to the Mortal Realms and Age of Sigmar. So we got this awesome reveal, boom, with Pimp Daddy Teclis himself, the God of Light. So this is a really interesting picture. Now, typically, and what we've seen with across all the Age of Sigmar models and all of the Age of Sigmar armies, is they share a very, very close and similar motif. And that really goes without saying when we talk about any Warhammer army. It's like a sports announcer saying, yeah, well, the other team's winning, the other one's losing. Like, oh, well, shit, no duh. But my point here is that if you look at the way that Teclis looks in this picture, he looks awesome. He looks very high elf. I mean, just take a look at the armor. Take a look at the way that you've got this nice billowing white cloth stuffed into these lovely black boots. A ton of blue, blue and white and silver and gold. Those are a lot of the things that make up the old school high elf army. Now, I'm not saying this is going to look exactly like the High Elves by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to have its own Age of Sigmar flair. And to be totally honest with you, that's awesome. Age of Sigmar models are really awesome looking models. Take a look at the entire Ideneth Deepkin line, the Slaves of Darkness line, the one for Khorne. All of them are beautiful. Awesome. So if we get the same kind of motif of High Elf, but kind of twisted in an Age of Sigmar way, I'm really into it. And if you take a look at this, it's remarked in this article that he is the god of mages. When we took a look at the world that was, we know that he has the Potion of Charoi that kind of helps rejuvenate him, right? If we take a look at that from a Total War perspective. But in the actual lore, he had to drink these potions to become more than just bedridden. Throughout the majority of his teenage and adolescent life, he was just a bedridden kind of sickly individual. And this looks more like someone who is rejuvenated and has a lot of vigor and a lot of panache, right? Like he kind of got something to show off here. So maybe he will be a little bit more less bedridden and sickly like he was in the world that was. And now that he's imbued with the might of a god, he actually has like a lot going for him. So I'm really curious to see how they kind of flesh this one out. And we'll take a look over here at his iconic weapons, so we can see his Sword of Teclis, the sword that he forged himself, and the Staff of Lilith here. And just to kind of give you guys a frame of reference of what that looks like from the world that was, here is the, what's it called, Warhammer Online variation of Teclis, and it's a really, really solid variation of Teclis, right? A really ornate looking Sword of Teclis, a really ornate Staff of Lilith. The War Crown of Safri adorned his head as well. We even get another version of this over here when we look at Total War Warhammer 2's version of the Sword of Teclis. Like it's got the phoenix wings right here, look really cool. But overall, I'm really excited to see what comes of this this future announcement of Haish. It says in the weeks to come, so hopefully we'll get this to kind of come out here around February or March timeline. I'm going to be doing another video on this as a quick little aside, but it's kind of more of a discussion about how Games Workshop, I think, is starting to roll a lot of their model releases in line with a lot of their video game IP releases. Now, I don't say that in the sense that it strictly is bound to one another. Like, okay, we're only not going to release these models until Total War Warhammer 2 wants to come out with more high elves. No, I think that it's the other way around. Hey, Total War Warhammer 2, we're releasing new high elves. You're going to wait until we release these high elves. Because if I think about it, and I think about the Total War Warhammer 2 timeline versus the Age of Sigmar Haish timeline, they could possibly match up if we get high elves in the DLC for Total War Warhammer 2. But getting ahead of myself, we'll talk about that on another video here. But I just wanted to real quick talk about the news of the brand new Teclis for the Age of Sigmar. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.